Hi everyone, welcome back to Broken Part 12. Full 15 minutes at least today. We left the I'm back in a hammock. Hopefully the sound's better. We left the story. Martin was just arrived back in Thailand for a 6-month break. He met up with Wah, took Frozen, had a good meeting, and everything was in place for him going forward in his mind about coming to Thailand for 6 months at a time, seeing his daughter, exploring Thailand, seeing if there's any way he could come here and retire in the future. Let me bring you a bit closer, eh? And that was in his mind. Now, we'll come back to that in a minute. I'm going to just skirt back a bit, or into the future possibly. Martin, like I was before, was a taxi driver. He was self-employed, and the way it works in Britain, you can earn £10,000–15,000 a year before you start paying tax. But being self-employed, a taxi driver, you have your own vehicle, or you could rent one, but you have your own vehicle. You've got lots of licensing and things to pay for to become a taxi, and tests and all the rest of it. And he was like myself. We were hackney. You could actually pick up on the street, and you can make reasonably good living at it. If you did a lot of hours, you could make reasonably good money. He had a house, as I said, with a mortgage that he'd bought about 5 years before, and he had a couple of people renting a couple of rooms in his house, which was covering all the bills. Now, he had a previous marriage I mentioned, and 2 children, a boy and a girl. Over the next few years, they would be coming up to the age where they're getting ready for university. And his ex-wife had got a new partner. But one of the things he had kept thinking about, and he had many discussions with me over this, that he was somehow going to have to finance his half of the 2 children going to university. And with his 6-month plan, the more he thought about it, the more he wondered whether he could do it. And on this trip, when he arrived and he talked to Wah and done all this, he came back to my bar and we started talking about this more and more for a few days. He knew that he was going to have to raise some money for the 2 kids back home, and he's the sort of person that he's just brilliant. He won't, his kids come first, end of story, just there first. We chatted and chatted, and he was about to go wandering off and do Koh Samet and Koh Chang, but he said about this money. And his idea was, after this 6 months, he didn't think he'd be able to do the 6 months. The more and more he thought about it, and I agreed, he's going to be better off just maybe doing a month holiday in April time and a couple of months at Christmas, and work for 9 months so he'd make that extra money, or make some of it. It was a great plan, the 6 months, but as soon as you bring the kids into the equation and starting to save money for his daughter in Thailand, he realised it may be not possible. Anyway, back to the day, and this is 15 years ago, so we are going to accelerate through a bit quicker. He went off to Koh Samet, had a good time for a month there, and then came back from Samet, popped in, went up to what I think it is Buriram. It might be Korat, where his daughter is, but he went back up to the village and he started getting into the village properly. He started meeting the Thai neighbours, meeting that other Farang. He spent a lot of time with that other Farang, gave him lots of great advice, and he spent a couple of months up there doing a little bit of upgrades to the house. Got some local builders to build a proper bathroom, and the house was a wooden house up on stilts, so they built a bathroom downstairs and they made the kitchen a bit better, and he spent a bit of money. Probably a bit too much. But anyway, he spent a couple of months with his daughter. War never showed up. And then he got a bit stir crazy. He came back down, Pattaya, came and saw me, and he'd said, yeah, he's not going to be able to do 6 months. It's too long here. It would not work out, especially with the finances he just spent on the house. But he said he was going to go to Koh Chang for a month and then go back home. He was going to cut the holiday short, try and save some money. And off he did. He went down to Koh Chang. Koh Chang's a beautiful island, and he was happy to stay in a very cheap room. And he found a bar, I'm not sure which part of the island, but he found a bar which was not far from the beach. And the girl who owned the bar, he didn't know at the time she owned the bar, also owned some huts type on the beach. And he got one of those. And he booked it for the whole month. Well, over this month, he spent a lot of time chilling and thinking, and he got quite friendly with this this girl who owned the bar, and had a good time, I suppose. Nothing happened, just became good friends. Wasn't drinking, only, you know, a couple of drinks every day, that was about it. Doing a lot of exercise, and also he borrowed her little scooter and was looking around the island. He fell in love with the place. Time came, back home. Said goodbye to me on his way through, and I got a phone call about 3 or 4 weeks later, I think it was, talking about the house again and the kids. And after speaking to lots of other people and his accountant that he does every year, just in case you still have to put your books in even if you're paying zero tax, and the accountant showed him lots of numbers. And what he decided to do was, a friend of his had a bit of money and wanted to invest in property. He decided to sell his house. It had about £40,000 of equity in it, $50,000 American dollars. Was to sell the house to his friend, and his friend then would rent him the house back for him and his two lodgers, but it would be a bit more than they're paying at the moment. So in fact he'd have to start paying a bit of rent, which was okay, but it would free up the money. In hindsight, this was a huge mistake, and I'll explain later. So he sold his house to his friend. He stayed there. He was paying about £50 a week, $60, $65 a week, and he took the 40,000 and he put 90% of it into 2 bank accounts for his 2 children, for their university, for his half of their fees, and his ex-wife did the same. So he'd covered all their fees to go to university, which was coming up in a few years. He'd done his duty. He'd put that money away for them, and everything would be covered, which was brilliant. And they did later on go to university and both finish and pass, and that money covered it all. But it took him off the housing market. He decided that he would not only work the full 6 months so he could get a lump sum to go to Thailand, but he'd work a further 3 months. Yes, he'd have to pay tax a bit, but then he could start putting some savings away for his daughter in Thailand, which was a great idea. And then he chose, and at this point it must have been around June time, all this finished and got sorted. He booked 2 months in Thailand over Christmas, so it was immediately after Christmas, as in Boxing Day, December 26th. He'd come out for the end of the month in January, February, and he bought his airplane ticket already, set all that up, and off he went working. And he'd been working through this whole period, and he did well. He made enough money for the holiday, and he made enough money for saving for his daughter, and some money to upgrade their daughter's house in Thailand again. So he'd really planned it well. He'd done a great job planning everything. Came back over, had a week just staying around Pattaya, a few drinks, wasn't getting drunk at all. Went back up to the village and spent a month in the village, and then he went down to Koh Chang again for 3 weeks, final 3 weeks. And this time he did hook up with the bar girl owner. I have no idea what her name is. I'm just going to call her Lucky. And he hooked up with her, and they started seeing each other, started being a part-time boyfriend girlfriend. He was having a great time down there. 3 weeks went by, he dropped back up on the way through and said he'd be back out, and this is just the end of February. He was going to come out April for a month. It just timed well for the busy periods and quiet periods in the taxi business. So he was going to be out in a few months' time, and off he went. Now let's jump forward. He basically did this for the next 5-6 years. He came over in April for a month, came over Christmas, January, February for 2 months. His daughter was growing rapidly, quickly. So she's now up to about 6-7 years old, and beautiful daughter. He's been a great dad. He's spending time in the village. He's still seeing this girl in Koh Chang, on and off, nothing serious. And he's working and saving hard. But his biggest worry is his daughter growing up and following her mother and ending up going to Pattaya. Let me change the battery, it's about to go flat. Battery seems to last less time in this heat. Never mind. Yeah, so everything's good, but he's really not sure about the daughter. And we both had a friend who was another taxi driver who had a similar situation, got a daughter in Thailand, and he had just gone through a battle to get his daughter back to the UK. It cost him £15,000 pound, nearly 17,000 American dollars to get everything sorted. It nearly broke him. Of course, Martin saw this and realised that he's going to have the same battle. So right now his daughter's about 6-7 years old. He would have to get her across before she was about 15. This is another amount of money he's going to have to save up for this. And this other friend, the situation was almost identical. A bar girl, a daughter in the village, and the bar girl wanted a payoff as well as all the court fees and everything. So he was facing this, and now he knew, at least he knew in advance what it's going to cost him. But he's starting to think about getting his daughter across to the UK, which is a good thing. Anyway, the trip, April trip, come and went, and he's back at work. The Christmas trip, his daughter wanted to come with him. His son wasn't fussed, but his daughter wanted to come with him. And what he decided was his ex-wife agreed to pay for half of her trip, that she'd come over for 3 weeks with him. And Christmas came, and he brought his daughter over. Came to Pattaya, which is probably a bit mad for a teenage girl. Came to see me, which is great to see his daughter growing up so quick. And he took her up to the village, and the daughter loved the village. She had a couple of weeks up there. He took her down to Koh Samet for a couple of days, and then put her back on a plane, and off she went. And he went off then to Koh Chang. Still going great with this relationship with the girl that owns the bar. Now it had come where he was staying with her in her room every time he came, so he had no outlay, but he was still giving her a bit of money. And it was good, but she had a financial backer, it turns out, another foreigner, as a boyfriend, which he found out. But he was fine with it. He basically said, we're just having a bit of fun, and I'm coming down a couple of times a year, as long as you're okay with that. I'm not looking at getting a long-term relationship or married or having more kids. So they just carried on like that. That probably happens a lot, that sort of thing. Time just flies by, and he's having a great time coming to Thailand. He's working hard in the UK. His kids are doing well. His daughter in Thailand is doing well. He hardly sees war. But time is passing by so quick. But all good. Right, we'll leave it there. We'll accelerate it again on the next one. That was episode 12, I think. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now. Wow, it's getting hot. No cats have attacked me. They're sleeping under the cars. Bye for now.